Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this time we are going to be sharing our favorite award winners and award-winning nominees. As we share, the titles of the books will appear on your screen, as well as the various formats that they're available in through the Monroe County Library System. If you're interested in getting your hands on any of them, there's several ways to do that. The first is to call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and speak to the staff there, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. If you'd like to request them on your own, you can do that through our online catalog, and the web address for that is on your screen now, and that will allow you to request physical versions, hardcovers, paperbacks, etc. If you're interested in a title that's available digitally, we have two different platforms that are available for that. The first is Overdrive, and the app for Overdrive is Libby. And Overdrive provides downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, as well as magazines. And the second platform for digital items is Hoopla, and Hoopla offers downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And the great thing about Hoopla is that there is never a wait for any of the titles that you see there. You can start downloading immediately. I am Jennifer Graneski, and I am the branch librarian at the Dundee branch. And our introductory question for this week is to share about any award that you have won in your entire lifetime. So I thought about this, and the first one that came to mind, because to be honest, I haven't won a lot of awards, was when I was in kindergarten, first, second grade. Our church did a program called Awana, and as part of Awana, we did a Pinewood car derby. So you make the little cars and you send them down the ramp and they race and they give awards for design and for speed. And I won a third place design award for my small green jalopy looking like car. And how much involvement did I have in making this car? This much. Because our job, whenever we did this, my dad would ask us what we wanted the car to look like. And I think I told him I wanted it to look like his Model A, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. So it's kind of an old-fashioned looking green car. And then our job, and my dad would cut it out, and our job was to sand it. And I remember spending a lot of time sanding this small block of wood. And then we got to choose the paint color, and I got to put stickers on it. So I remember doing that. It was a good time with my dad. It was something we looked forward to every year. And I'm pretty sure that was the year that I won third place in design. So I'm a Pinewood Derby winner. That's my memorable award. Also with us this week is Sarah Valerius, who is a sub throughout the Monroe County Library System and has worked in lots of the branches. And what award have you won, Sarah?
I'm like you, not many. I can think of two in my lifetime. One was in high school. I had the fastest time and made, like, for cross country, and made like the board, you know, when you walked into the gym, there was a board of everyone's name. Now that the high school is redone and I haven't been in it, I don't know if my time still is up there. It was like 21:02 was my time for 3 miles. So yeah, that stood there for a while. I don't know if I'm sure by now it's been beaten because people are so much faster at running. And then I
want you to know 21:02 is like my time for 1 mile. I just want you to know that.
That's fast. My fastest mile didn't come till in college when I was running, and that's like 6:05.
Wow, that's amazing.
I can't put my shoes on in 6 minutes.
I am nowhere near that now when I run. I'm like 9-minute miles now, and I'm like, boy, I'm breathing hard. Like, this is crazy.
Yep. 20 minutes over here, 20 minutes on the treadmill, just walking along. Good for you. Did you want to share your other one, or are you sticking with that one?
My other award, I worked for handicapped kids for 17 years before I started at the library. And I won an award for not missing a day 5 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You're like super healthy. Sarah's our super healthy person. Awards for running and not missing work. Nice. Nice, Sarah. Also with us this week is Stephanie Winterstein, who is the Youth Services Librarian at the Ida and Summerfield Petersburg branches. And what award do you want to share with us, Stephanie?
Wow. I know you would probably never guess this, but you are looking at the most improved bowler in the year 2000 in our co-ed bowling league.
Nice.
Yes. When I started bowling, I probably got like a 30. Like, it was really bad. And I think by the end of the season, I might have gotten like one time, like 180. Right. So obviously you can see why I won the award.
Clearly well deserved.
Yes. Well, and I was quite proud of this award. I had like a hope chest at home. Like, so I kept it in there. And then as I moved around, obviously we moved the hope chest. And I pulled it out, and, you know, every once in a while I'm like, oh, look, this is my special bowling award, because now I can't bowl to save my life.
Yeah.
However, sadly, the award was repurposed a couple of years ago. My children repurposed it for the Family Ugly Sweater Contest. So they, like, painted over it, and, like, so now my bowling award is at my parents' house, where my father probably displays it as best ugly sweater for the year of 2019. So, you know.
It's the award that keeps on giving.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Thank you, Stephanie. And finally with us this week is Jen McCarty, a reference librarian at the Ellis branch. And what award do you want to tell us about, Jen?
I had a serious one I was planning on sharing, and I'll share that too, but Stephanie's story reminded me of something that now I have to share. When I was in high school, my senior year, my 18th birthday was not great. And my birthday's in the fall, and all of my friends ran cross country, like all of my friends. And so like my birthday was just kind of nothing. So I made a big deal that, actually, no, it wasn't senior year. Doesn't matter what year it was, a year in high school. I decided in May I needed a birthday do-over. My birthday's actually in September. So I declared May 27th, Jenna Day, and my friends rolled with it. They were like, yeah, we'll do this. We'll celebrate you for a whole day. Why not? And one of them gave me an old running trophy that they had like remade, and it had like my name and, you know, the year, whatever. And it was the best non-running girl because like all of my friends ran. So that's my silly one. But the real one that I was actually going to share was when I was in college, I entered an essay contest kind of thing. It was for, I can't remember the official title of it. It was something scholar, you know, sounded really fancy, but it was like for community colleges. But I entered a paper that I wrote in the literature area or whatever, and then I got selected and I had to go present this award to a panel, and there was like 6 of us that presented our papers, and we had to like, you know, discuss our paper and give a presentation, and I ended up winning. So there's like a, you know, scholarship of 2-year colleges book somewhere that my essay on Iago in Othello is in there, because apparently it was good.
Nice.
Well, so that's my real serious. I was really proud of that. It was kind of exciting because I got to go, you know, present it and be fancy and be like, yes, I know a lot about Shakespeare.
Ta-da!
Yay!
Nice. Well, thanks everybody. And now we're going to share our favorite award-winning books as well as the award that they won. And one of the really interesting things about doing award winners is you start looking for the different literary awards that are out there, and literary makes them sound real fancy. But there are awards for almost any genre that you are interested in, whether it is nonfiction or mysteries or romance. And so once you find an award, like that gives you a reading list for a long time because there are so many options out there. So even if we share titles that you're like, I'm not super interested in those, listen to the names of the awards too, because if it's a genre or a category of books that you're interested in, you might want to go out and check those out and see what else has won that award. So to kick us off, I'm going to let Sarah get us started with her favorite award winners.
And I, like I said earlier to the group, I had no idea, like I knew children's books won awards. I had no idea of adult fiction won. So when we were doing this topic, you know, Jennifer's like, hey, you read a lot, you got some books. Let me see. And I do, but I don't know if I wrote down exactly what awards they won. I know my first book, Miracle Creek, was nominated, but I don't think it actually won the award. But this one is by Angie Kim, and it's a mystery murder courtroom drama. And it's in a small town of Virginia. It's an immigrant family from Korea. The Yu family are immigrated over, and they put up a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in their yard. The first ones ever, and they built a barn around it, and they got participants to come. And in theory, the hyperbaric oxygen chamber can treat lots of illnesses, flesh-eating bacteria. I've actually seen one when I did my respiratory training. There's one at Toledo in the basement, and then there's one at U of M. So you go into this, it's in this machine. It's kind of like a tube, and it's given 100% oxygen anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to reboost your cells to grow. So if you're sick or have a lung disease, I know they used them a lot, like in the 50s and the 60s for the iron lung. But in this book, and it does follow like the actual usage of it, it explains it in the book if you like the science behind it. But there's 8 families that are there getting treatments, and they tell all the parents, don't bring in anything flammable, don't smoke cigarettes, because you know it's 100% oxygen, everything will light up. Well, the kids go in, and the 8-year-old, you know, with their mom, and he's an autistic little boy, and he has one of those retractable cars that he's playing with. So inside the oxygen chamber, he is playing with the car, and you know it sparks and it blows up. So is the mom overworked, overtired, and it accidentally happened? Or did she plan it because she's overworked and overtired and can't handle the stress of an autistic kid? Others get injured. There are other deaths in there, but it's following this family and their drama, the Korean family and their drama. And through the courtroom, and the mom testifies, and you have to hear, and she speaks to everyone. So to me, it was really interesting to talk about. I loved it. So you have many multi-dimensional characters in this book where you don't know what they're thinking and how they're thinking. And the ending will just rip your heart out. Like you'll get to the end and you're like, oh, that's how it ended. So you'll be thinking beyond you get done reading the book. Now, when I was reading up on the book about the author, because, you know, I was looking to check it out that it was an award, the author's son actually used the hyperbaric oxygen treatment when he was 2, and to heal his ulcerative, if I'm saying it right, colitis. So the mother at the time was a trial lawyer, sitting through all these treatments as she got to know other families that were also getting treatments. So that's what inspired her to write this book. So I just thought that was really interesting backstory that. So now she's an author who just takes care of her son, because after she found out, like, my son was so sick, she would have to prep foods, cook foods. You know, he was on all these medicines at 2, he was getting these treatments. She quit work, now she's a national author, and just takes care of her son and helps heal other kids with this treatment. So I thought that was really cool of her. Like, so it's a really good book that she puts her lawyer spin on it, which is what gets you, because you know those lawyers are gruesome in the courtroom. So if you like courtroom drama, this book is definitely a good one.
And I looked it up while you were sharing, Sarah. It did win.
Oh,
it
did
won
win.
the
Okay.
Edgar Award, which is given by the Mystery Writers of America, and it won for Best First Novel. So this is Angie Kim's first novel. So I'm betting, since this one did so well and sounds fascinating, that she will have more forthcoming if she hasn't already. So that's what that one won for.
And then my other book is Redhead on the Side of the Road by Ann Tyler. And a lot of people think of Ann Tyler for her book. She wrote the book, The Spool of Blue Thread. If you guys have read that book, she also wrote this book, which apparently the redhead on the side of the road is a metaphor for our fire hydrants when I was looking that up. So I thought that was kind of cool that she used that metaphor for this title of the book. This one is like a good, light-hearted, quick read. It's a short book by Ann Tyler. It's only like 200 pages. So this is a good, like, take to the beach or going away on a weekend trip. But this book is about a 44-year-old Micah who lives alone and likes his routines. Now, and a lot of people said like OCD in the book. I don't think it's OCD. I think he's a little bit like Sheldon. Where Monday is cleaning day and I eat this for breakfast. Tuesday, I eat that for breakfast. Wednesday, he mops all in the same order. He gets dressed all in the same order. So to me, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, he might be a little on the spectrum. So Micah is a tech hermit where he goes and fixes computers. So he's like the original Geek Squad where you would call. So he gets these little old ladies who are calling him to fix his computers. They're asking why it won't turn on. My computer went to sleep. You know, it won't print. So he gets called, and the way he gets into talking with these old ladies, because, you know, he's kind of like talking to his mom, but you got to remember, it's like Sheldon to me when I was reading it, like, well, did you even turn it on? Did you move the mouse at all? Is there paper in the printer? Does it need ink? So he's very set in his ways and the way he talks to people. But his life partner, which he won't call her his girlfriend because you don't have girlfriends when you're over 30. She's being evicted for owning a cat. So she's like, well, can I come live with you? And he's like, no, you cannot. Like, I have a routine and I love you, but like, you don't fit my routine. You're my Wednesday night girl. Like, you're not my everyday in the morning girl. Like, we eat dinner together, you go home and I stay home. So in the midst of all this, a teenager shows up and says that I think you're my dad. Well, you know, Micah's like doing the math in his head and he's like, well, when were you born? Well, that can't happen. I can't be your dad because your mother and I were not together then. So he feels sorry for the kid and lets him move in. So the girlfriend's like, wait, you told me I couldn't move in, but you let a completely stranger, someone you don't know, move in? So I thought that was cool in the story, you know, and then it goes into other conflicts and how they get together and does it work out. So it's really cool to figure out if it really is his son or is he really thinking it isn't. Also in the story are his 4 crazy sisters that are older, and he can't stand them. It gives him anxiety just like thinking about the holidays and going over there, which was another thing that reminded me of like Sheldon, you know, because their house is a mess. The kids are a mess. They'll touch me like, oh my God, did you wash your hands? You're eating at the dinner table and you didn't use silverware, you know. So it was a good laugh out loud book, and I really enjoyed it. And I did not write down, and this one I know won the award, but I did not write down what award it won because I was surprised it won an award because it was such a quick, easy, it wasn't, you know, any depth there. It was just a quick, easy, lighthearted read.
And I went and Googled it, and it was long listed for the Booker Prize.
Oh.
And the Booker Prize is given annually for the best novel written in English and published in the United Kingdom or Ireland.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. So if you like novels, you know, from England and Ireland, check out the Booker Prize, or at least published over there. I don't think the author has to be from there. It just has to be published in the UK during the last year. So thank you, Sarah. And let's have Jen share her favorite award winners next. Oh, I think you're still muted, Jen.
Yes, I was. I was trying to make sure I had my notes open so I could talk about these. Both of my books are Hugo Awards. For some reason, I was about to say a different award they're Hugo Awards. So both of my books are sci-fi fantasy because that's how I roll. And the Hugo Awards are given annually to the best books in sci-fi and fantasy. So both of my books won those awards. So I want to start with Red Shirts by John Scalzi. How many of you listening are Star Trek fans? I got any Star Trek fans over here?
I know Star Trek. I know the red shirts and
If you know Star Trek, then the red shirts, you might totally get what that is. I'm not a huge Star Trek person, but I know enough that I knew sort of, what that is. So if you're not familiar, in the Star Trek universe, the lower class or the lower people in the group generally have red shirts on, and quite frequently when there would be, fun missions, someone would die, and that person was always a red shirt. So it became kind of a joke. Well, in this particular book, it kind of takes on that topic of the red shirts and kind of the joke of that. So this book follows a crew on the Intrepid is the name of their ship, and the main character's name is Andrew Dahl, and he's super excited to get this job on the Intrepid, and it's 24 something in the universe, and they're traveling, and he's super excited to go on away missions. Well, he quickly realizes that, oh my gosh, every time someone goes on an away mission, someone dies, and it's always a red shirt. It's always a lower ranking somebody who's not around much, like, hey, new guy, oh, you don't want to go on an away mission. And then they also realize that the main people, their captain, like the top, the higher ups on the ship, always miraculously survive. And this is weird. And why? Why do they always survive and someone always dies? And it's really, really weird. So then Andrew and some of the other people that he's working with kind of come upon this secret, and they realize that maybe their entire existence is not what they think it is. And I don't want to give too much away, but this book is really, really, it's funny. If you are a Star Trek fan, like, I knew just enough to make it entertaining. I'm not a hardcore fan, but people that I know that are really, really into Star Trek, like, love this because it's kind of funny. But it ties into, there's the Star Trek world, or the world of the Intrepid, and then there's kind of the real world. And maybe the people on the Intrepid are part of a TV show that's badly written. And it's funny. It's a good sci-fi. It ties into all the really cheesy, like, 60s, 70s tropes of science fiction and shows like Star Trek. Definitely, if you are the least bit into, like, Star Trek or sci-fi, and you like kind of humor and a little bit of tongue-in-cheekness, a little bit poking fun at it, this book is fantastic. It won the Hugo Award in 2014. So that's Red Shirts, and it's a good time. My other book is called Leviathan Wakes, and it is by it's actually by a pair of authors, but their combined pen name is James F.A. Corey. And this book is the first book in the Expanse series. And some of you may recognize Expanse as a TV show. So the whole series kind of has been turned into a TV show. But the very first book is Leviathan Wakes. And Leviathan Wakes was nominated for a Hugo Award as itself. It did not win. But then later on, the entire series was nominated, like, as a whole, and the whole series did win the award. So this one is kind of a nominee and a winner. But so Leviathan Wakes is set in the future as well. And the world has been, or the universe basically has been colonized. Earth is now run by the United Nations. The sort of overarching government of the whole thing is the Martian something. But it's kind of broken up. You have your inner planets, you have your outer planets, and between them you have the belt. It's the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt has been also colonized. There are settlements on the larger asteroids, and the people who live there are called belters, and they're basically kind of like the dirty jobs people of the universe. The asteroids are really mineral rich, so they do a lot of mining. And the people who live here also have some different like physical characteristics because the asteroid belt is really low gravity. The people that live there tend to be really, really tall and thin and kind of elongated. So you can already see when you look at them like, oh, that person's a belter. And the belters are kind of a little bit second-class citizens almost in the universe. So when this particular book, our main character is a belter. Oh no, sorry, he's not. He's actually a regular Earth guy who happens to be in the galaxy, whatever. He is on an ice mining ship, and on their way back to their port or whatever, they stumble upon a derelict ship that has a beacon going off, a distress signal. So they get on it, and they're kind of immediately attacked, and they're like, "What's going on?" And then there's a secondary story where there's a belter detective who's looking for a girl who is missing, and her family, has a huge reward to get her back. And these two stories kind of come together. What happened with this beacon, and why were we attacked? Where is this girl? What does she have to do with what's going on? And they realize there's kind of starting to be a bit of a tensions and possibly even a war going between the Earth government and the outer planets. The outer planets don't really want to be under the same government as everybody else, and so there's rebels, and it's a little Star Wars-ish with the different factions. But it's really cool because you have this entire galaxy of characters and this entire galaxy of issues, and of course, regular countries in our world have, weird enough governmental issues. Imagine an entire galaxy, and they're kind of uniform, they're kind of unified, but obviously there's issues, and the outer planets are like, you're not paying attention to us. Hi, we're still here. And the inner planets are like, whatever, we're in charge. And then there's the belters who are like, hi, I'm glad that we're doing your mining and all your dirty work, but like, we're important too. It's just a really, really well done series. There's 8 books total, and then I think there's a couple of like short stories and novellas thrown in there as well. But the whole series is fantastic, but Leviathan Wakes is the first book, and it's really, really good. If you've heard of the sci-fi show and you didn't realize it was a book, I would highly recommend it. The first season, I think the first season or the first season and a half is just Leviathan Wakes. So if you've enjoyed that and you're kind of curious to see what the source material is for The Expanse, Leviathan Wakes is really good. And I can totally see why it won awards, because it's a really, really fun sci-fi book.
Nice. Thanks, Jen. And next we'll have Stephanie share her favorite award winners.
Okay. So my first one is We Dream of Space by Erin Kelly and Trotta, and it won the Newbery Honor Book, I believe in 2020. Let's see if I can pull up my notes here. So it's basically about 3 siblings growing up in the 1980s and around the time of the Challenger disaster. So if you're my age, you might remember, you probably will remember where you were when you heard about the Challenger exploding. Like personally, I was like 8 years old planning my birthday party, and I came home from school and my mom told me about it. And that's how I just don't know why, but I just remember those 2 things being correlated. But I know exactly where I was. I know where I was in my house, and I know how I felt. And it was just a very strange feeling. But this is about 3 siblings who have parents who argue constantly, but the kids are all fighting some battles of their own. Like the 12-year-old sibling is named Fitch, who spends a lot of time at the arcade, and he has a really hot temper. And when he falls in love with the wrong girl, his nerves are tested by constantly teasing friends, and his anger ultimately makes him say something that he shouldn't have said to this girl, Amanda. And then there's Cash, and he has a twin sister named Fitch. But Cash is the oldest. He likes basketball, but he doesn't make the basketball team because he has bad grades, and he is in danger of failing the 7th grade for the 2nd time, and generally just feeling like he isn't good at anything. And the parents do nothing to help the kids with any of their problems. And then his twin sister, Bird, is very talented, and she just has this huge desire to like understand the world, and she wants to be an astronaut. She wants to understand how things work and how machines do what they do. So she takes things apart, she draws things, she tries to, you know, just figure things out. But when the science teacher starts talking about the Space Challenger, she gets really excited. You know, the launch, they're learning about it at school, and then everything happens the way it happens. But when she was, you know, thinking about being an astronaut one day and then having this all happen, there's some impacts there. But it does a really good job of talking about the Challenger explosion and different things. But it's, I don't know, one of the saying, well, the author had made a statement that says, we often feel like we're in orbit alone. Sometimes we just need to find the right solar system. And that actually like made me cry for some reason, because back when I was in college, I was kind of struggling to find my place. And back when email was just becoming a thing, my dad had written me an email telling me a story of a little girl who once couldn't swim the length of a pool, but she kept trying, and she kept trying until she made it. She just needed to find the right pool. So I think that struck me. See, I'm even getting a little emotional just talking about this, but I don't know. I just found it very, very relatable. But I also, because I love space and I love like the idea of what could be going on in other galaxies. I don't know. It was a very good story to me. So that's my first one. And then my second one is Dead End in Norvelt by Jack Gantos, which won the Newbery Medal in 2012. Now, this book I hadn't read. Well, I shouldn't say that. I read it, but I read it with my book club. Oh, probably 4 or 5 years ago. I have a middle school book club at IDA, pre-COVID. And so I hadn't read it with any groups. I hadn't read it myself. We were reading it all at the same time. And this is the first book that I can honestly say my kids fell in love with. They wanted to go to the town of Norvelt on a field trip when we were done. They're like, is it a real place? Can we go there? I think we should talk to Mr. Akin. I think we could go on a field trip. So they loved this book, and they would talk about it like all the time. But it's about a boy named Jack who lives with his mom and dad in Norvelt, which is a very, very small town. But he has some very interesting neighbors. So this was back in the 60s. He went on a vacation, he says his summer vacation was ruined when his mom grounds him for the entire summer. And he wasn't surprised because he's been in trouble. He accidentally fires his dad's Japanese sniper rifle at the town's drive-in movie theater screen. And then he didn't know the gun was loaded. So he gets caught up in the middle of all that. He gets in the middle of a war with his parents. He mows down his mom's cornfield, which, you know, doesn't everyone have their own cornfield? But maybe in small town Indiana. The only time he leaves the house is when Miss Volker, the town's elderly woman medical examiner, requests some help. She has crippling arthritis and needs someone to write down the obituaries that she dictates. But lucky for Jack, Miss Volker is a former nurse, and she does impromptu surgery on his nose to fix it, which I don't remember exactly what that part's about, but Jack gets stressed out and scared. Anyway, he is in the middle of a mystery. So not only does he need to find out who loaded his dad's rifle, he also needs to figure out who is killing off the town's elderly residents, because he's writing all these obituaries and they're dying mysteriously. So as the body count rises, Jack has to figure some things out. He has to get to the bottom of the events. He needs to stay out of trouble, and he needs to figure out his friendship with Bunny Huffer, a spunky tomboy whose dad is the owner of the town's funeral parlor. He identifies several people who he thinks could possibly be responsible for the deaths. And he thinks one could be Miss Volker, one could be Mr. Spitz, and one could be Mr. Huffer, who have all recently purchased poison. But this is all about like a middle school kid, which is really funny. In the end, all the mysteries are solved. Jack's nosebleeds go away, and he figures out, you know, a lot of things about himself. He even grew up a little bit. It was just such a good book, and I loved the fact that my kids loved it so much. So if you have some middle school kids, I definitely think this would be a good choice for them to read.
Nice. Thank you, Stephanie. And the Newbery Award, for those of you that aren't part of the library world, is sort of like the Oscars for children's librarians everywhere. The Newbery Award is given for the best in children's literature published in the last year in the United States only. I think it has to be published in the States. And then there's also the Caldecott, which none of us talked about, but the Caldecott is a big one too. And that one's given for the best art in a children's book published in the last year. And those are like, they're just a really big deal in our world. And we spend time reading blogs by other librarians about like who they think is going to win this year and which books they think that they would choose. So if you have children in your life and you're looking for books for them, that's a great list to start going through and seeing if there's something on there. The nominees are usually fabulous too. They always usually do a winner and then several nominees. So thank you, Stephanie, for sharing about Newbery Award winners. And mine are not Newbery Award winners, nor are they intended for children. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Only Good Indians, which was just published in the last year by Stephen Graham Jones. And it is up for the 2021 Bram Stoker Award. And the Bram Stoker Award is given by the Horror Writers Association. And so when I went out and started, I knew about the Stoker Award. That was not new to me. I did not know that there was such a thing as StokerCon, which is a whole conference just for horror novels and horror writing. And it's virtual this year. And it's May 20th through May 23rd, in case anybody, I don't know, is interested in checking it out. So that got me super excited. So The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones is nominated, but we won't know whether or not it won until the conference in May this year. So I picked this one up. I didn't know at the time that it had been nominated for this award, but it was making a lot of best of lists for horror novels this year. And horror novels are always hard to describe because one, you don't want to give too much away, and two, they sound insane because there's almost always an element of the supernatural in them. And so you start describing it and everybody's looking at you like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to go pick that one up. So there's not a great way to describe this one. First of all, I do want to say this is an Own Voices novel. It is about Native Americans from the title, The Only Good Indians. And if you finish that quote, the only good Indian is a dead Indian. So it plays with all those stereotypes that we have of Native Americans here. Stephen Graham Jones is a member of the Blackfeet tribe. So he speaks from experience as somebody who grew up on a reservation and knows what it's like to be inside these characters. So the story focuses on 4 men who have also grown up on the reservation. And when they were teenagers, something happened in their lives. And you don't know exactly what it was that happened. But shortly after this occurrence happens, one of them leaves the reservation permanently. One of them leaves and they're not sure what happens to them, and 2 of them stay and end up having children and living their lives. And now I don't remember exactly how long it's been, but I want to say it's been about 15, 20 years since that happened. And things begin to happen to these 4 men. You know, right away, one of them disappears. One of them is convinced that an entity is following him, and he starts to reach out to his 2 other former friends that he can find and tries to warn them. And as you're reading his portion of the story, you don't know if he's just kind of lost his mind or if this entity that is tracking them is real. And I will say, because I don't want to give too much away about what the entity is, because I feel, one, you need to read the author's description of it, because once you're in the story, it feels believable. If I just told you what it was right now in the light of day, you'd be like, well, that's silly. So if you're into ghost stories, if you're into horror, if you're, it has so much stuff in there. In my review on Goodreads, I said that Jones somehow manages to combine native storytelling, a mythic creature, what it's like to live currently on a reservation and off as a Native American, family love, lifelong male friendships, laugh out loud humor, there's humor in this too, a revenge tale, jaw-dropping horror, and so much more, all in just under 300 pages. It is not just good for horror, it's a genuinely good read. Now, I will say a lot of people, and myself included, in the beginning, the rhythm of the writing feels different, and I don't know how to describe that, but it started a little slow for me, and then pow, right around page 100, I couldn't put it down. So it's one of those you got to give a little time to soak into as well, but 2 thumbs up, it's fabulous. I kind of hope it wins, even though there are other books on the nominee list that I have read that I also think are fabulous, but this one I thought was really good. Someday maybe I'll go to StokerCon. And if you are a horror fan, the Stoker Awards give awards now for a lot. They do graphic novels, they do young adult fiction, they do first novels, and they do screenplays, which I thought was really interesting. So if you're not necessarily a horror reader, but you want to know what people in that world as writers are talking about in terms of media, they give away screenplay awards too. So I thought that was interesting. So that's my first one. And my second one is The Stranger Diaries by Ellie Griffiths. And this one won the Edgar Award for Best Novel in 2020, but it was published in 2019. And at the time, I did not know this was an award winner. When I picked it up because it hit on some of the things that I really like in a mystery novel. One of those is I really seem to like stories set at boarding schools. I don't know why that is. That seems to be a trope in mystery novels for some reason. And this one is set, I don't think it's a boarding school. I think it's just a really ritzy private school, but it was close enough that I picked it up. So you get that, and Claire Cassidy is an English teacher at, I'm not sure the name of the school, but the school that she's at, she went to because supposedly it is haunted by the ghost of a horror writer, R.M. Holland. And so she's working on a thesis and she's working on research and maybe is going to write a book about R.M. Holland. And she managed to get a job at the school that's supposedly haunted. So while she is there, of course, it's a mystery novel, strange things begin happening, including a murder. And so she begins investigating the murder. And as you're reading Claire's story, investigating the murder, you also get to read a ghost story that was written by this fictional horror author, R.M. Holland. And I have to say, most of the time when you kind of get that two perspective thing going in a book, one of those stories always seems to be a lot better than the other one. And you're like, I don't really care about this storyline. I can just skim through and get to the part I want to read. Both of these are really good. The ghost story from the author is fabulous and creepy and gives you a sense of dread. And the mystery is really good. There's lots of good characters, kind of Agatha Christie-ish, lots of red herrings that are out there for you to go, I wonder if it's so-and-so. But enough clues that you could solve it if you had to. She gives you enough little bits in there that once the ending is revealed, you're like, okay, that's fair. Which I always appreciate in a mystery. I don't like it when they just tell you, hey, it's this, and you didn't have enough information to ever have a guess at it. So if you like mysteries, I thought this was a great one. And supposedly, although I haven't found a release date, supposedly she's writing another one as well, which kind of surprised me because it completely wrapped up. I didn't know that it needed like a series created out of it or a sequel, but she's writing another one. I'll be there to read it. So those are my 2 award winners. Thank you to everybody who listened this week. Thank you to those of you who shared your favorite award winners. And next time, we are going to be sharing our favorite reads from outside our reading comfort zone. So clearly that means I don't get to pick horror scary books. So I will have to come up with something that I've read outside of that genre. So that's what we'll be talking about next time. Hope you all have great weeks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.